Welcome to Performance Training with Coach Abdullah. I'm tired. Always something happens on this channel, but I'm gonna give it to you raw and uncut. I do have my notes here. The first time I talked on the camera, I was sick, and this time I didn't sleep. But I'm gonna try to do my best. Anyway, this is a very, very personal episode. The name and the title of this episode is called 42-0. I titled this 42-0 because it was the score of our game against the United Arab Emirates Falcons, and that was the score of the game. One thing I learned about the Dubai game is that many of the players, they just don't understand what it takes to be a football player. And so what I'd like to do is take this opportunity to just kind of go back, and this is my personal video to the parents and the players of the Jeddah American Football Team. This is a personal, even though this is going out to my YouTube channel and the whole world could see it, but it's really my heart, my life experience to the parents and the players of the Jeddah American Football Team. How did I get this passion? There's a lot of reasons. A lot of things combined made me the way I am. From my parents, my upbringing, my coaches, the players that I played around. But the one thing that I could say that made me drive or want to be the best that I could be at this sport was that I was undersized. You know, basically I stopped growing at 6th grade. And, you know, I was a tall kid, and then at 6th grade everybody just passed me. And so as I was playing this sport, football, that I loved, I was one of the smaller guys, so I felt as though I had to work harder in the gym. I had to work harder in sprints. And that's kind of what I've been trying to transfer into some of the guys here. I want guys to, not necessarily because they're smaller, but I want guys to understand that when you step on the field, you have to be the best you, mentally and physically and also spiritually. You have to be the best you. And that starts with surrendering yourself. One thing I can say that through all of my coaches, whether it was Coach Arnie Young, Coach Dan Helsley, Coach Bob Kersey and his assistant for track. These are some of my pre-college coaches that stood out. These coaches, they didn't settle for second best. It wasn't necessarily the result whether you got in first place or you won the game, but in practice, in the training part of it, they did not accept nothing but your best effort. They would push you and push you and push you into, you know, to places that you never even knew you could go. You know, I remember when I was running for the LA Jets, you know, there was times after track practice I pass out. You know, there's times I had workouts with Coach Young, my track and field coach at Lindbergh High School, that my legs, I felt like my legs couldn't move anymore, but Coach Young would just keep pushing me. And you know, through Coach Young, we broke the school record. I went to state every year in track and field, which is the biggest track meet in high school track. You know, I'm not talking about the summer track program with, you know, the Junior Olympics and stuff like that, which I participated in as well with other coaches. But in high school, you know, Coach Young pushed us to a limit even in track and field. Dan Helsley, you know, that guy was amazing for me because he was a guy that changed an offense for me, so that I had an opportunity to play on the next level. And Coach Helsley, you know, he gave me a balance between pushing me to the edge and at the same time giving me positive reinforcement to make me even keep going further. Once I got to high school, once I got to college, that's when everything changed. When I got to college, I was the smallest guy on the field. When I got to college, I'm the smallest person on the field, and everybody on the team was a champion from where they came from. They were a superstar. And so the level of the game was fast. It was extremely fast. And now I want to just, you know, take a sideway. I want to give you a small window into the type of coaches that I had in college, because not minimizing my younger coaches, but there are some coaches that I had in my college experience that just really impacted my life even up into this very moment. So I'll start with Coach John L. Smith. John L. Smith personally recruited me. Actually, John L. Smith and Bobby Petrino. And they personally recruited me out of high school. I got a full ride scholarship and went on to the University of Idaho. John L. Smith was like a player. He's what we call in football a player's coach. He was the type of guy that's like a father figure or like an uncle, but at the same time on the football field, he was a perfectionist. You know, he would scream at you, he would joke at you, he'd give you all the emotions, but at the same time, he was really shaping a man. He was shaping a football player. Bobby Petrino was what I consider the offensive scientist. Why? Because what I saw, even though I only played under him 1 year, what I saw with him on the field was that he was such a perfectionist, but how he trained us and made us do repetitions over and over, you could see it transfer onto the field. Next, I'll talk about, these aren't in the order of importance, by the way. You know, these guys are all impacting. The guy that I would say turned me, you know, to a fearless gridiron warrior, so to speak, would be Paul Petrino, my running back coach. Paul Petrino was such a tough love type of coach. You know, one dropped ball, you had 5 sprints, and you don't even think about fumbling the ball. You know, don't even think about that. That's just not an option. But he was just such a in-your-face, gotta be on the meeting on time, gotta be in the gym on time, gotta have your therapy, gotta have your homework done. Everything had to be done or you're getting punished. And he was in your face. And if he was kind of like something like how I had in my home with my parents. Like my parents, if they said something, you don't have, there's no talking back. So Coach Paul was like that. You couldn't talk back to Coach Paul. Coach Paul would square up, and Coach Petrino would square up with a football player. So he did something to me, and I believe, some of my best play as a running back in college was under Paul Petrino. I could never, I can't even express what specifically John L. Smith and Paul Petrino did for me personally as an individual human being. I can't say enough about those two specifically. Mike Cox, linebacker coach. Mike Cox, he was the linebacker coach and I was a running back, so Even though we're on the same team, there's this competition. But what I really mostly remember Coach Cox is that he liked to get under your skin. He liked to see if you were sensitive. In winter conditioning, you know, after winter break, we would get to winter conditioning. And in winter conditioning is one of the toughest things. I seen guys give up their scholarship. I seen guys defecate on themselves, urinate on themselves, pass out. It's one of the toughest things in college football in my experiences. And Coach Cox, if you went to his station in winter conditioning, he was going to destroy you. But Coach Cox was an excellent coach to play under, and I remember him, and I appreciate what he did for me as a football player. Another coach would be Nick Holt, and I got to check my list so I make sure I'm not missing any names. Coach Nick Holt was the defensive coordinator. Nick Holt was an ex-linebacker, super fiery guy, you know, in your face, expected the best out of you. And the thing I liked about Coach Holt is, though, even though he was the defensive coordinator, I think he had the D-line, if he saw you anywhere on campus, or if he saw you anywhere, he was, hey, what's going on? How you doing? You know, he was one of those coaches that was always concerned. I remember, and I'll be honest, I remember my senior year, and this is shameful for me to admit, that I wasn't in the best shape. I remember I was walking to the gym, gonna go work out, and Coach Holt saw me, and he said something to me in the effect that, you know, I didn't look like I was in shape. And you know, I'll never forget that conversation. Even to this day, I'll never forget it, because I feel the guilt, even at this age, of not being the best me. And that's why I want the Jeddah American Football Team players to just give yourself a chance. If you want this sport to grow, if you want to represent your country through this sport, you're gonna have to give yourself up. One thing I wish that the players could take away from what I'm saying is that that's what they need to do. They need to give themselves up, turn the brain off for a moment, and be coachable and get molded into a real football player. That's the only way you're gonna really represent this sport and represent your country the way it should be. Let me go on. Scott Linehan, the quarterback genius, offensive coordinator. Scott Linehan, this is an example because me and Scott Linehan, this is how I felt. I don't know, you know, I don't know how any of these coaches feel about me, because we don't have any contact with each other. But Scott Linehan was a coach that I felt we didn't see eye to eye. And that's an example to the players that you focus on the goal. So what the coach doesn't, you don't see eye to eye with the coach. What's the goal? The goal is to win. So you can't get so sensitive to get caught up in your personal or interpersonal relationship with the coach. The goal is to win. And that video on Who is Coach Abdullah, and you see that run, it's famous. I remember Coach Petrino telling me that even Coach Linehan was mad at me at how I approached that particular 37 zone. But even still, I respect the man. I respect his genius. He's a quarterback genius. His resume says it. I remember doing run timing and all the drills. He's a perfectionist. And that's what I gained from him, is to be a perfectionist. And that if you don't have repetitive repetitions, constant repetitions at your craft, you're just not going to be that good at it, and you're not going to be able to manipulate it and do special things if you don't have the fundamentals grounded in you. They have to be grounded in you. Coach Paul Scanzi, Coach Paul Scanzi, he was the quiet soldier, so to speak. Coach Paul didn't talk, he didn't scream, he didn't yell very often. But he was a genius. He taught me tricks on how to catch punts and kickoffs and tricks to catch the ball. Very, 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 very influential guy, and I really respected Coach. I was only under him for 1 year, but it was a great experience. Coach Yarber. Coach Yarber taught me a lot. Some of the stuff that you might see me doing in the gym, this performance training. I learned some of the stuff that I do, especially on the legs. I learned it from Coach Yarber, who was, he's a Super Bowl winner. He taught me a lot of things: catching, running, sprinting. He was a small receiver, so he gave me the confidence in the positive reinforcement to just keep on working hard and keep on performing on the field. I think I might have missed some coaches, but I'm gonna move on. Let me go to players. And I'm not gonna talk too many. I don't wanna, because I'll miss some names and people get mad, or I don't wanna miss any names, but there's some really influential players that really impacted my playing career and impacted my life, especially about how they approach the game. And the first one I want to mention is Jeff Robinson. The reason why the first one I want to mention Jeff Robinson is because when I first came onto the Vandal football team, the first thing I saw was Jeff Robinson. He looked like a mini Hulk. He had the traps coming from out of his neck. He had the big hands, and he was for a high school kid coming to college, it was just amazing. And the ironic thing is, the first day that the rookies come with the veterans, I have to go one-on-one with Jeff Robinson. So that's amazing. But Jeff Robinson was amazing, man. He was amazing defensive end. I think 2 or 3 time All-American. The thing about Jeff Robinson that stands out is that his work ethic in the gym, his work ethic off the field. He was a student. And see, when I see players telling me that they can't come to practice because they have to study, well, all of us were student athletes. It's part of being a football. It's a part of being a football player. Football players are a special breed of people. If you went to college and you played college football, it means that you are a student athlete. Now me, I was a college athlete. A scholarship athlete, meaning I had to maintain a certain level of grades to even play football. But one thing, back to Jeff Robinson, he was just excellent at everything. And all these names I'm going to mention, they were pretty much the same. Another one I'll mention is Casey Dunn. Excellent receiver. Casey Dunn was literally amazing. He was in my group in the winter conditioning I was telling you about with Coach Cox. Casey Dunn, Yo Murphy, Doug Nussmeier, they were all in my group, and these are all guys I plan to mention also. They were always first, and they always wanted to be first. They were always, they were leaders on and off the field. They were just good at every single thing, all the things that it takes to be a good football player. That's why they were great examples. Casey Dunn wasn't the fastest receiver, but he caught everything that was thrown to him. He was just amazing. I saw some of the most amazing catches in practice and in games playing with Casey Dunn. Yo Murphy was another amazing, super strong receiver. Just an amazing guy, amazing personality. Doug Nussmeier. What can I say about Doug? Doug was a guy, I personally, I want to say that Doug Nussmeier had confidence oozing out of his skin when I reflect back to how he played on the football team. I mean, he just was a confident, he was a field general. Let me think of some other guys. I can't think of any some of these other guys that I played with. But needless to say, the point that I'm saying is that special guys are special. Champions have a characteristic. Champions, there's a mold to being a champion. A lot of these guys I named in 1992, we won the Big Sky Championship. That's when all of those pieces were put together. That's when all those coaches were there that I mentioned. John L. Smith, well, except for Bobby Petrino. John L. Smith, Nick Holt, Scott Linehan, Bobby Petrino, those players I mentioned, Doug Nussmeier, Jeff Robinson, Yo Murphy, Casey Dunn wasn't there that year. Or was he? Yeah, maybe, Casey was there. So I'm just saying, you know, there is a method to the madness. There is a method to the madness. When I want to address something, when people see me screaming at a player, you can't, it's because I want that player to be successful. It's because I have passion for the game. I have love for the game. And I want to put the players in the best position. And sometimes I might do things specifically to get underneath a player's skin just to see how he will react. Why? Because this game requires a person to be in control of their emotions, control of their mind, control of their body. And so I just tried to tell you guys in a real short, raw way with no sleep. I know I could have done a lot better than this, but I'm just trying to tell you guys that, look, I am who I am, and those are the people who made Coach Abdullah a football player. I don't believe that I would have been who I became as a football player without those people that I mentioned. It took blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm saying if you guys want to change 42 to 0, you're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to change your mindset. You're going to have to do something that you never thought or never imagined that you would do. And if you do that, if you're willing to even try, you can change 42 to 0. I thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe to the channel, share this video, like, and also make sure that you tick that box or that bell shape so that you get the updates as the new videos come. Again, I thank you for watching. Peace. Assalamu alaikum.